Phil Spencer has reportedly reassured employees Microsoft, quote unquote, won't stop making Xbox consoles. The exec is claimed to have addressed online reports in an internal town hall meeting. The gaming division reportedly held an internal town hall meeting this week to address reports it could be bringing some of its first-party games to other console platforms. I don't know. Honestly, guys, we talked about this last week. I think this whole story of Microsoft bringing some of their games to PS5, I think it's kind of hilariously, I think it's overblown, personally. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. And the reason I don't think it's a big deal is just simply because I think the only people really getting upset about it are people that are members of what they would consider to be like the Xbox family, or self-described Xbots, or, you know, the same kind of guys that are like, we're fighting the console war. We got to take down Sony every chance we get. And I think that represents such a small percentage of the gaming community that it's basically negligible. If you're the type to like be pissed that they're going to port a game that's been exclusive on Xbox for years in the case of Sea of Thieves, or a year in the case of whatever it's called, the rhythm game, music rhythm game. Again, my brain is fried today. Did not sleep much last night. Hi-Fi Rush, that's what it is. If you're the type of person that's going to be really upset about that, okay, I can't stop you. It's your right to be upset about it. I think it's silly to be upset about that, but okay. You know, if you bought into this and you've tied your personality to Xbox and you feel like Xbox is giving up, I guess it makes sense that you're upset, but I still think it's silly to tie your personality to a hunk of plastic and silicon. In the same way that, like, if Apple screws up the launch of the next MacBook or iPhone and then you start to like really hurt and you're like depressed because of that, that's a problem. Like, that, you shouldn't do that. You should have more going on in your life than tying yourself to like multi-trillion-dollar companies. Because guess what? They don't care. I think there's actually a really good thing put out by, let me see if I can find it. I think it was Colin. Yeah, this clip. I thought this was really good because he was talking to a group. I don't know who all these guys are. Of course, I know Maddie. This is his co-host on his like Defining Duke podcast. I'm not familiar with this guy. I don't maybe I will once he moves his head. And then I think this is one of the producers for their like network of channels. But Colin is like a veteran of games journalism. He's been around for a long time. But he's talking to these guys about the Xbox situation. And I think he put something very, very well, which is just simply that a lot of Xbox creators started to misunderstand the actual relationship at the core here. And I think he puts it very, very well.
You're talking about, because I agree with you generally speaking, like, we have to be analytical. And I took an enormous amount of abuse from Xbox fans for being analytical. The reality from my perspective, and I'd be very interested to see what you think of this, is that I think one of the mistakes Xbox has made is, and makes Sony and especially Nintendo look much more brilliant in hindsight, is like, they just don't say anything to anyone. They don't feed this, frankly, parasocial fanboyism that is deep in the Xbox ecosystem. I'm sorry. Like, it's not to say that there's not obnoxious. I hate so many people that cover PlayStation. They're fucking annoying. They're fanboys. They're obnoxious. But Shuhei Yoshida isn't gassing them up. The sad reality, and you see this, is like men acting like children, mostly men, women too, acting like children because they think they played Halo with Phil Spencer once. And so like Phil Spencer's his best friend and Phil would never do this to him. And I'm not talking about anyone specific because I don't even know who exactly that is, but I know that that's the kind of discourse that's going on out there. And that shit is fed by executives that are playing on the fanboyism in their own ecosystem, and it's backfiring on them in a major way. Because if this was happening with PlayStation, we would be fucking melting down, of course, in our own ecosystem. But the one thing you couldn't do is point to all the different things everyone said to you and how you did this and you had brunch with this guy and you met this guy and this guy signed your console and all this. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that stuff, but you're feeding into that like they care about you and they don't. Now, it doesn't mean you can't broach the friend layer, but generally speaking, they want you to speak positively about their products. They're going to give you access and try to tip the scale to make that happen. And when things go bad, you will defend them. And you have to kind of draw a line internally and understand it's like, they're not your friend. They don't know you.
What?
They don't care what you think.
What?
And They're
Papa Phil?
manipulating you. And instead of you understanding the manipulation and using it to your advantage, you're letting yourself be manipulated into the point where you're selling your Xbox consoles and you're melting down on YouTube, videos and all these things about innuendo and rumor that we frankly don't even know about. And that's unique to this Xbox generation. And I really want to know what you guys think about this, about like what I see as like an overt toxicity per capita, way worse than anything going on in the other ecosystems. A lot of it fed by this idea that the corporation's behind you and the corporation cares about you. And yeah, I do my free marketing and I do my free reels and I make all this beautiful stuff and I promote the product. How can you betray me like this? And it's like, dude, you didn't even come into their minds for 1 iota of 1 second.
Yeah, they do not care
when they were making this decision. And you're being manipulated.
Yeah. It's amazing, but like, as you can see, there's this whole thing where like some of these Xbox fans went and like met with members of the Microsoft marketing team. It's something Xbox has very intentionally tried to do because it ties, it makes a relationship between this multi-trillion-dollar company and the gamer feel very personal. Like, oh, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of friends. I know the guys that run Xbox. They take care of me. They wouldn't screw us over like this. They're fighting the good fight. We're talking about video games and like console sales numbers. Like, what are you talking about? Hold the line. This isn't an actual war. Like, Microsoft's trying to sell games to people, and they're trying to find the best way to do that. If they make you happy while doing it, cool. If not, who cares? Like, even somebody with 150,000 subs or 500,000 subs, whatever, like if every single one of their viewers bails on a publisher or a community, like these companies don't really care that much. It's like a bummer, sure, but they don't really care. It's not going to make or break the bank. Like, it's a similar thing you kind of have to learn when you're doing content creation, is that like if you have a live stream coming in with like chats and stuff going crazy, if you have one person that's just being toxic in the chat, you can just mute them, hide them, ban them, whatever, and it will make the overall thing better. Even though you lost one, in the grand scheme of things, that one viewer wasn't going to make or break the bank because they were bringing down other things that were more problematic. You have to learn that, like, unfortunately, some things are there's collateral damage with some of these choices. And I think that that's what Xbox is learning with this, is that making these choices to bring games that these guys thought were going to be exclusive to their platform, bringing those to PlayStation 5 and PC and everything else all at the same time, or relatively close to launch, whatever they choose to do. It's going to piss off these guys. But for Xbox, they're looking at it and they think that they can frankly make more money by bringing these games to PS5 than keeping these guys happy. And I think that's what is hurting them so personally and upsetting them so much, is that they thought that they were like the best buds of the executives when they weren't. They were just a pawn. Like, and it's something to remember. Like, people sometimes ask, they're like, oh, so when you go to like preview events or you do stuff like get review codes and stuff for games, are you worried that you're just going to start to feel, I guess, obligated would be the word, to suck up to PlayStation or suck up to this or that or whoever? And it's like, maybe some people, but at the end of the day, like, I understand the relationship, and I think a lot of creators do, that when Ubisoft sends me a review code, like Ubisoft, they are, the only reason they're talking to me is because they want me to talk well about their product. They want me to sell it to my audience. They want me to win my audience over. And so they need me just as much as I need them for content, you know? And the great thing with all of this is that a lot of gamers are still willing to watch content and reviews and stuff, or videos breaking down games, even after they've launched. So review codes aren't that crucial. Sure, like for Starfield, I think my Starfield review did like maybe 800,000 or close to it, something like that. And so like that was nice to have that video out on day one. But I can guarantee you I could have gotten probably 400 on a review posted a week later, and then another couple of videos I would have put out after that would have caught it up. So it wouldn't have been that big of a deal if I hadn't gotten the review code. It's nice, but is it worth sacrificing like your pride to suck up to a brand? Like, no, I don't think so. I do think Colin's right that a lot of these guys seemingly have forgotten that Xbox is not their friend, PlayStation's not their friend, Nintendo definitely is not your friend. They are just there to sell a product. And if They sell a product to you, great. If not, oh well, you're a number on a stat sheet at the end of the day. Like, you are one of many numbers they're looking at, and you're probably not going to make or break the bank at the end of the day. Yeah, Steam ain't your friend either. Like, nobody is. But with this, like, what Phil Spencer reportedly said was that they have no plans to stop making consoles, and that Xbox consoles will continue to be part of its strategy, which involves quote unquote multiple kinds of devices. The rumors recently in the last like couple of weeks have been that Microsoft wants to do a like standard console, so like a Series X basically, but the next generation of it. And then they want to do a secondary device like the Series S, which I actually have down there. But the Series S replacement for the next generation is basically going to be a Switch. So their goal is to have it be a handheld Xbox that can play some games natively potentially, and then also do xCloud streaming, but that you can also dock and then stream to a PC or stream to a projector or TV or whatever else. So it's kind of a hybrid of the two, which I think works way better, frankly, than the Series S. I mean, I think you get the lower price point. You also target mobile gamers and players that are going on the go. I think having an Xbox handheld makes a lot of sense. I think it just could work very well. And apparently the handheld device is being designed by the Surface team. And if you've never used a Microsoft like Surface tablet PC, they're very good. Build quality, very, very good. So I'm excited to see that. I think it could be really cool. Okay, Xbox will hold an official podcast on Thursday, February 15th with Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty to share quote-unquote updates on the Xbox business amid multi-platform rumors. I mean, it's interesting they're framing it as a podcast. So I would presume that means it's much more conversational and probably long form. Like, they're going to be actually maybe answering some questions, responding to some other stuff. I don't know. That could be really interesting. But I like the vibe. So we'll see. I guess that's when we're going to find out the next step. With all of this though, like, let's be honest, if the answer was no, we're not doing any of this, they would have just said that. They are bringing games to other platforms. They're not going to pivot because they upset 35 people that make YouTube videos. They're not going to do anything like that. They'll just kind of let it move on. And honestly, like, I don't think, and maybe this is just naivete, I don't think that the fanboys on PlayStation or Xbox's side of things really do that much to move or sell consoles. Like, yeah, it's just an echo chamber, but I think those people that are diehard fans of Xbox or diehard fans of PlayStation will always be there. I think they'll always be there, whether there are YouTube channels catering to them or not. So I don't think PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, anybody really cares that much if they upset their hardest core fanboys, which is kind of funny because you think they'd cater to them, but I don't think it really makes that big of a difference at the end of the day. It just doesn't. It doesn't. So now if you can win over like more independent reviewers, journalists, gamers like that can make a difference. That can absolutely make a difference. When do I think Activision Blizzard games will be in Game Pass? I mean, I think they probably bring stuff within 18 months. You start to see stuff. Like, I think you'll see the same kind of thing where it's like early access available on Game Pass. So maybe for the next Call of Duty, it's like play the game 3 days early if you have Game Pass and play it that way. But then you could also pay $100 for the deluxe edition and play it on PlayStation early, something like that. That wouldn't shock me. He took my thing. Red flag.